Okay, great. So we've had a lot more people join us now, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. So once again, good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Spanish Chamber of Commerce in the UK, I'd like to firstly wish you all a very happy new year and give you a warm welcome to this morning's webinar, which is on the topic of pension planning. Just as a quick disclaimer, today's session is being recorded. We're really pleased to be holding the very first event of 2023 with Chamber member St James's Place Wealth Management, which provides clients with holistic financial advice and wealth management services encompassing investment planning, retirement planning, estate planning, tax planning, and international financial planning. Our speaker for today's session is Luis Villar, who is a chartered wealth manager at St James's Place. And Luis helps individuals, families, and businesses achieve their personal and financial goals through bespoke and holistic financial planning and investment advice. So today's session will begin with a presentation by Luis, and following the talk, there will be some time for a Q&A session. So throughout the duration of Luis's talk, if you do have any questions, please pop them into the Q&A function below, and following the presentation, Luis will be able to address those. Without further ado, I'll hand over now to you, Luis.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction, Rebecca. Good morning, everyone. And thank you to the Spanish Chamber of Commerce in the UK for facilitating this webinar. Hope you guys are well. I hope the 2023 is got off to a really good start. So today we're going to be talking about pensions in the UK. Try to unpack this topic, which is a little bit complex, and walk you through some of the options that are available to those who have a pension in the UK. So let's start with the presentation. I'm going to be speaking probably for 20-25 minutes. And as Rebecca said, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat box, and I'll try to answer as many questions as possible at the end of the presentation. So your pension, your options. When I'll be looking at some ideas in terms of planning for your future, lifelong investing, and achieving the future that you want. Okay, we're going to start actually looking at 4 different stories, 4 different lives, 4 different financial journeys to get us kicked off, because I think it's a little bit easier to relate and to understand when we looked at real cases, rather than me trying to explain the the ins and outs of all the technical aspects of pensions in the UK. So there's 4 different stories or journeys I'm going to share with you, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about pensions, and then we will open it up to questions and to the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So the first one we're going to be looking at is this Julia. Julia is 32. She is a solicitor, lives in London. She's come a long way since her university days. Left university with a little bit more knowledge and a lot more debt. It is also, I think, worth pointing out that back in her 20s, when she started her career, she wasn't overly concerned about her finances, her money. She took a payday loan, 200, another one for 500. I think it's a way to illustrate that. I think when you're in your 20s, you're not necessarily particularly worried about your finances that much. But I think it's only when it came to the repayment of the pay loans that it was almost double actually what initially borrowed, that she got a little bit more interested about protecting and thinking about her financial future. So she is 32 now. She is actually doing really well. Looking to save between 10 and 20% of her income. Looking to buy a property. Got a boyfriend, but I think she's looking to buy a property on her own. She's also thinking about potentially having children, not having children, not entirely sure, but she likes to have a degree of independence when it comes to making her own financial decisions, and that's why she's now looking to buy a property for herself. It's also looking at thinking long term and looking at their career, but also goals and aspirations for the future, in terms of her pension and her provision for retirement. So at the moment, her employer, she's got a very generous employer. The employer is contributing 5% of her income, and she's also contributing 5% of her income towards her pension. She's trying to to start building a pension pot that is enough for her to retire whenever she wishes to retire in the future. She feels overall confident about her financial future, having a structure and a plan in place. There's always the temptation maybe to keep a little bit too much money readily available in cash, and I think it's important. We talk to clients like Julia to try to strike the right balance between how much to save, how much to invest, and how much to keep aside. As a rainy day fund. But investing is always be the best way to protect your money from inflation over the long term. But it's also sensible to put something aside for short-term and emergency needs. So I think it's a good idea to keep at least 6 months of your pay in a bank account or readily available savings to cover any essential expenditure and emergencies that that might crop up. How does the pension tax relief actually works? Well, remember, you're a basic rate taxpayer. For every £100 that you get into your pension, the effective cost to you is 80, because you get £20 of tax relief into your pension contributions. If you're a higher rate taxpayer, is actually even better. For every £100 that you put into your pension, the net cost to you is actually £60, because you can get £20 of income tax relief into your pension straight away, and then you can claim another £20 via self-assessment. Okay, so this is again a good way to start thinking about how we can plan and start saving for for future retirement in a tax efficient manner. On the right hand side, you can see a very interesting chart as well. It shows you the projected rates or the growth or the value of the pension fund if someone like Julia, you're looking to retire, say age 67, and you start contributing £200 a month into your pension. Okay, so assuming a growth rate of 2.4% a year, if you were to start saving £200 a month age 20, by the time you reach age 67, you will have accumulated £349,000 into your pension. In today's money, i.e. discounted for inflation, the growth rate that we're illustrating is 2.4%. So if you add inflation on top of that, say 2%, this is what someone like Julia, a little bit younger than Julia, would expect to have accumulated in her pension fund age 67, okay, with £200 gross contribution. If you start a little bit later, of course, the value of the pension fund will be a lot lower, 215,000. And if you were to start age 40, it will be significantly lower. So I think the message is the sooner you can start saving for your pension, for your retirement, the better, of course. Let's look at another story. This is Polly and Soph. Polly is 41. She's a freelance designer. Soph is 45, and she's currently unemployed. They've got an 8-year-old son called Sam. They've been, I think it's a little bit more complex, this the situation, because on the one hand, of course, they've got a son who is a financial dependent, but unfortunately, Soph lost her job, a big corporate job in post-COVID in early 2020. Okay, she was made redundant and she hasn't been able to find another job. Okay, so you're looking at currently policy income is what what they're managing with in terms of the finances, and they've got an 8-year-old son, and Polly's mom as well has been unwell, so they had to support her financially as well. They've got a mortgage as well and a car that they're both on lease. So the expenses are going up. They feel a little bit more constrained in terms of the current financial situation, because only one of them is earning and the other is is doing some contracting work but it's not fully back to employment. And it is for them is very important to provide for their son, for Sam. So they opened up a junior ISA to start contributing for his future education, for university fees in the future, and they're also looking at ways to maximize their pension in a tax efficient manner. Is actually Polly had a little bit of a wobble in her pension recently due to the market turbulence and volatility. She was tempted actually to move her entire pension into cash, but luckily her financial advisor persuaded her not to. So it is, riding out the ups and downs in the market is not easy. So when the stock markets are down, for an example, this can be often the best time to invest and probably the worst time to sell, even if you have a big mortgage like these ladies and it gives you sleepless nights. So the important thing is to stick to your plan as much as you can and do not lose focus or be distracted by the day-to-day noise of what's going on in the markets. Instead, what you need to do, I think, is to concentrate on the longer term and the bigger picture. So when it comes to investing, do not let your emotions take hold of you. It's very important to think rationally and to think long term. And equally important is to stay focused on your goals. It is very, very important to think beyond what's happening in the short term and have a plan and stick to the plan, because they'll give you the conviction to stay in course when the going gets tough, especially when we are pushed with interest rates or higher mortgage bills or school fees. It is really, really important to have well-defined goals and a plan that is fully aligned to your goals and objectives, and then to stick to it and be disciplined. So really, really interesting. On the right-hand side, you can see a chart of the returns on a 100K investment over 20 years, tracking the FTSE All-Share Index. So we always say to our clients, is the time in the market, not time in the market, what will make a big difference to your pension and any other long-term investments. It is impossible to time the market, let's be honest, day to day, by trying to sell at the top and buy at the bottom of any cycle. If you have invested £100,000 over the past 20 years, and if you had remained invested, your total return would be £423,000. Okay. If you had missed the best 10 days in the period between 1992 and 2022, your investments would be 220,000. Still, it's a good sum, but only 50%, 52% of the gains that you had stayed invested. So the lesson is very clear. Don't try to time the markets. It's impossible. And it will always lead to suboptimal outcomes for clients. Let's have a look at a third story, the age of consolidation. So Mohin is a civil engineer and is married to Aisha, an HR director. They're both 55 and they live in South Wales, and they have 2 adult children. So Mohin wants to stop working age 60 because he wants to enjoy his retirement. He had a bit of a health scare last year, and that made him reassess his priorities. He thought initially he was planning to work until his late 60s, but now what he likes to do is to spend more time with his family, play a little bit more tennis, and volunteer for a charity to give something back to society. Aisha, on the other hand, wants to work for as long as she can because she loves her job and doesn't find it demanding. Even as she gets older, she says that she would probably stay until her mid-60s. So it is, thinking a little bit about the fact that they've got 2 children, they're still financially dependent. Mahin looking to retire a little bit earlier than planned. He had previously worked for various different employers in the past, and one thing that he did and worked really well for him was to consolidate 3 different pensions with one provider, and to start planning for his future retirement in a holistic manner. Aisha's got, on the other hand, 2 separate pension plans. One includes a final salary pension. They also have an ISA and a buy-to-let flat that they rent. Mohin's parents passed away and they left a little bit of inheritance for them. But because his dad was very poorly last year, they incurred quite a lot of medical expenses as well. So that reduced the size of the inheritance. The good news is that they finished paying off the mortgage, so they don't have any debt as such. The children are financially dependent. One has got a job in London, but the parents are still helping them with rental expenses. The other boy is doing a PhD, and yes, still financially dependent. So they're trying to support him as much as they can. So what Mahin is basically decided is to stop working at age 60. Going to be looking to take some tax-free cash from his pension as soon as he retires, and then we will combine it with Aisha's income because she's planning to continue in employment for until age 65, 67. So his pension pot will be invested in growth and income for the following 5 years to 10 years, and then he will take a higher income from his pension. And then when they both reach 67, they'll be able to access the state pension as well, which means that at that point he will be looking to reduce the income that he's taken from his private pension at that point. Just as you can see, it's a little bit more complicated this case, but they have a plan. They've taken action. They've been proactive, and now they're in a much better position to enjoy their retirement. So I think they have more of a sense of security in terms of knowing that things are in place and there is a plan for the next decades. So in terms of what would be the right investment choices for someone like Mohin who's looking to access his pension within the next 5 years? So it's all about creating a portfolio that is that's the right portfolio for him given his level of risk. Okay, so it's about understanding his goals and objectives, how much he'll be looking to, how much income he will need to draw from his pension and in his retirement, and whether he has saved enough or not. On the right hand side, you can see the according to the Pension Life and Savings Association, how much one should be looking to, or how much one would need to have a comfortable retirement. Okay, this is for a single person, 32,600, and this is for a couple, 49,700 a year. Okay, this is to have a comfortable retirement with a few luxuries on top. Of course, if you live in London, I think you need probably add a little bit more on top of these figures. Okay, but the question is, for your circumstances, how much you think you need for your retirement? Do you think this will be enough? Do you think you need to spend more? You think you need to spend less? How much income you think you need for retirement? It's really, really important to start thinking about it so that, start planning for it in the future. And the last story we're going to look at, Diane and Peter, a lovely retired couple. Diane is 67 and Peter is 70. Diane wants to start her own business. They have 2 daughters and 3 grandchildren. They've been working with a financial advisor for many years. She worked for a estate agent, but stopped a couple of years ago. Peter, on the other hand, worked for the NHS. So Peter's got a guaranteed final salary NHS pension, which gives him a guaranteed income, a protection against inflation. Diane wants to start a small business making curtains in the next few years. And they've always been careful with money, particularly, they don't want the money to sit in the bank account, do nothing. They want to protect the money against rising rates and inflation. And they've been planning accordingly. They're thinking about retirement in terms of decades rather than years that go left. Okay, so looking at the planning for the next 20, 30 years, how much we've accumulated to pensions and how much can we afford actually to draw down from the pensions so that we do not outlive our savings. For Peter, it's a little bit easier because he's got final salary with NHS and it's adjusted for inflation. But for the young, need to be a little bit more careful to make sure that they do not run out of savings. They're also looking at supporting their daughters and the grandchildren, and they're very prudent, and they're looking to set aside a separate fund for potentially if they need medical care in the future. They might be looking to downsize their property as well and to move to a smaller flat in the future, and use some of the proceeds to support their children and grandchildren with university fees and the school fees. And yes, these guys are planning for the next 20, 30 years, and they want to leave a legacy as well for the loved ones, for the family. I think important when it comes again to investing, always plan for the financial planning, plan for the worst, but hope for the best. Okay, it is very important because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know whether we're going to live until age 80, 100, and we don't know how much help or medical care we'll need when we're in retirement or in later life. So it is very important to take a balanced and prudent approach to our finances. The chart on the slide shows you the dangers of pound cost averaging. What does that mean? Well, basically what it is that when someone is reached retirement age and is accessing the pension, have to be very, very careful in terms of how you access the pension to make sure that you do not run out of money before you die, particularly when there is volatility in the markets. So say, for instance, that one needs to withdraw £1,000 of income each month, and the unit price is £10. So you will need to cash in 100 units each month of your investment to draw down an income of £1,000 a month. But of course, if there is volatility in the markets and the unit price drops from 10 to 7, you need to actually cash in 144 units to get the same level of income. So when the markets are volatile, more of the pension fund has to be taken out to maintain the income of £1,000 a month. The problem with this approach is that you could easily deplete your savings and your pension fund if you are in a position where you need to draw down a regular income regardless of market conditions, or particularly when market conditions are volatile. Okay, so this is something that, again, needs to be managed very, very carefully to make sure that your pension lasts until you die. And if you can leave a legacy for your children or grandchildren, well, that's always a bonus, I say. So why plan for your retirement? You might be wondering, why bother? Well, this is the life expectancy in the UK in 2018 to 2020. It's actually dropped in the past 2 years. I think it's probably a little bit, I think, for men. It's probably caused by COVID. But for men, so for females, it's 82, 86, and for men is for males rather is 79. Okay, at the moment. So we're gonna be, if someone is looking to retire age 55 or even age 60, you're looking at the moment at 20, 25 years into retirement minimum. So I think probably most of us has to save more for retirement. I think that's probably a fact. If you don't accumulate enough, there's a risk that you might outlive your savings and you run out of money before you die. So I think it's important to consider the life that you want to have in your retirement and determine how much you need to save. It's all about creating a plan, the goals and objectives, and committing to the plan and taking action. The sooner you start taking action, the more choices you'll have in the future. Remember, your employer actually kind of make you retire now, post 2020. So there's no retirement age. It's up to you when you want to retire. It's also the demise of the final salary schemes. Of course, if you work for the NHS, you are one of the few lucky ones that has a final salary pension guaranteed when you reach retirement age. But the vast majority of us don't have the luxury of a guaranteed income when we reach retirement. So again, how much you save into your pension and how your pension is managed, it is your responsibility. It's not your employer's responsibility. It is your responsibility. Okay. So retirement could last 25 years or even more. And of course, you can use other assets for your retirement. You could use a property, you could downsize, you could use a buy-to-let, you could use an ISA, you could use other investments to provide for your retirement. Of course, the state pension as well, subject to eligibility, but the maximum rate at the moment is £185 a week, so it's 9,600 a year in this tax year, 2022, 2023. So you need to have 35 years on national insurance contributions to apply or to be eligible for the full state pension. Okay, and remember, state pension is age 67, the earliest that you can access to your state pension. Private pension, you can access from age 55. As of 2028, the earliest you can access to your private pension will be age 57. Of course, things could change in the future. Whether the government decides to introduce new changes or not, that remains to be seen. Why a pension? Again, remember the tax relief. Okay, if you are a basic rate taxpayer, for every £80 that you invest into your pension, this is net income after tax, the government adds £20. So tax relief is 20, so you get 100 into your pension. You're a higher rate taxpayer. For every £60 that you put into your pension, you get another 40. So it's 40% tax relief. And if you are an additional rate taxpayer, for every £55 into your pension, you get an extra 45%. So £45 tax relief per 100. Pension is one of the few things that hasn't been touched following the latest budget update in November last year, and it still remains as the most tax efficient investment vehicle to save for your retirement. So hopefully they will not introduce changes in the future, but right now it's one of the few things that are left to protect your income from 45% taxation in the future. So in terms of preparing for your retirement, how much income do you think you will need when you retire? How are you gonna generate that income? And what are the tax implications? What are the tax implications now of taking action and saving into your pension, or not taking action and paying more income tax on your earnings? And what are the tax implications in the future when you access your pension? I'll show you in a minute. And what does retirement mean to me? You looking to retire age 55, age 60, or do you want to be financially independent age 55, age 60? It's two different things. Financial independence means that you choose to work in your own terms if you want to work, but you don't have to work. Whereas if you're looking to retire age 60, 65 because you no longer want to work, it's a different situation and requires different planning. And are you using your assets to the greatest effect? So really, really important questions to consider. If you are now approaching retirement, or you might already be in retirement, what do you need or want in terms of income and capital? How and when should I access my accumulated wealth? And what are the tax implications when it comes to accessing my pension? What options do I have for my retirement? And what other considerations are now a priority? Okay, this is really, really important questions, and they're not always easy to answer. Ultimately, it will depend on your own individual circumstances. Okay. So, pension tax, the maximum you can save into your pension right now is £40,000 a year without paying tax. Okay, but the allowance is tapered for higher earners or reduced if you access your pensions funds flexibly. Okay, so do seek financial advice if you're not sure about how much you can put into your pension or what is the best way to invest into your pension, because the tax implications or the tax opportunities are phenomenal. So it is very important to seek financial advice. How much could you save into your pension? What is your lifetime allowance? Well, at the moment it's 1,073,100. That is the maximum that you can save into your pension over your lifetime without paying tax. If you go over the lifetime allowance, then you would have to pay tax. And the way it works, without going into too much detail, is that HMRC basically would take the tax relief back on anything over and above the 1,073,100 that is currently the maximum that you can accumulate into your pension in a tax efficient manner. This has been phrased until 2026, I believe, but again, it's one of these things that they might be reviewed again in the future, particularly, if a new government comes into power in the next couple of years. So how do I access my pension? Good question. This is it's a fairly complex area, but just to give you a high-level overview, a framework, if you like, you could buy an annuity. An annuity is a guaranteed income for your life. So you would exchange a chunk of your pension or all your pension in exchange for an annuity. Or you could use flexi access drawdown. So the first 25% of your pension, it would be tax-free, and the rest would be taxed at your marginal income tax rate. Or you could use AF Plus, uncrystallized fund pension lump sum. What a horrible name that is. So the AF Plus, what you do is that you take your pension in chunks. So say, for instance, I want to take £10,000 from my pension. Great. The first 2,500, you don't pay any tax. It's tax-free. And the rest, 7,500, would be subject to income tax. Okay, so these are kind of the three ways you can access your pension in the future. Okay. Now, is this simple? Is it straightforward? Well, see for yourself. This is, all the options that you have available when you reach age 55 or age 57 from 2028, if you want to access your pension at that point. This is all the things that you can do. The question is, which one is better for you, is best for you? Which one will give you the best outcome? It's a little bit more complex. So again, really important to get financial advice and to start planning and preparing your pension in a tax efficient manner way before you reach retirement age. So just to recap, I think there's 5 things we can do to support you with your pension, your lifelong investing strategies. I think the first one, this is probably the greatest opportunity, is the tax planning opportunity that financial plans offer to individuals in the UK. So the financial plans are often built on tax-efficient wrappers such as ISAs and pensions. So using the tax relief and allowances available can make a big difference over the long term, especially when planning for later life. These are liable to change fairly regularly. So again, it is very, very important to use the tax planning opportunities that you have available each year. You are in a situation or on whether you use the tax opportunity or you lose it. If you don't use it, you will lose it. It's as simple as that. And it can lead to expensive mistakes, no doubt, but I think this is the greatest opportunity, the tax planning for your pension. Second is, how we can help. Well, we can help build a tailor-made financial plan. Because your circumstances, objectives, and risks, appetites are unique, but also they will change and they will evolve as your circumstances change. So it's important to sometimes step back, identify your goals, understand the best way of getting there, taking into consideration short, medium, and long-term goals and objectives. It's not easy to do it on your own, and taking a holistic approach over your finances and your pension is a key component within your financial plan. It is really important. I think the third aspect where I think we help lots of clients to keep on track over the long term, particularly when we're looking at, this dichotomy or war, if you like, between logic and emotions. You see lots of events when, investors are selling their investments only to see that then the markets are bouncing back. So for long-term investments, short-term market fluctuations are inevitable. So we can help you to remain patient and prevent you from making costly decisions like moving a pension into cash when the markets are 20% down. Providing an injection of confidence. We want you to feel confident about your finances, and you have a plan and you have a structure in place that you don't have to worry about how you're going to live in your retirement. whether you're making the most of the tax-free opportunities that you have available now. So I think it's having a structure in place with goals and objectives. It is really, really important for people to feel confident about the future, the financial future. And last but not least, keeping safe. Even the most experienced investors can fall victim to the scams. So again, really, really important. This is something that is too good to be true, doesn't make sense, or the returns that they promised seem a little bit far-fetched. Always seek financial advice. Reach out to a professional, can help you to make decisions that you will not regret, and hopefully to avoid painful decisions or mistakes you make now, and that they can be very costly in the medium to long term. So, which of your financial journeys do you identify with? Is it the first one, starting a career, early 30s, how much should I save, want to buy a property, I'm contributed to my pension, is it enough? Is it the second one, the children, grown up, but they're still financially dependent, no mortgage, I'm actually looking, I want to retire a little bit early, I want to enjoy life? Is it the third one, looking at, how much can we save for a pension in a tax-efficient manner? We've got mortgages, we've got children, we feel a little bit sandwiched, a little bit constrained. Seems like we don't have enough. But how can we plan for the future? How can we plan for the present? How can we make the most of our hard-earned income and investments? Or is it the last one? You're already in retirement and you want to enjoy life. So you don't want to worry about your finances. You don't want to be deciding each year, how much should I take out of my pension? Am I doing this correctly? How is my pension fund being invested? Will I have enough in my pension before I die? Will I be able to leave a legacy for my children and grandchildren? So that brings me to the end of my presentation. You have my contact details there. If you have any questions or you'd like to discuss any of these aspects further with me, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm just going to go through, I'm going to have a look at the Q&A section and try to answer some of the questions that are in the chat. So just bear with me for 1 second. Right, so first question I have, what happens with the pension if I divorce? Do I have to share or keep it all? Thanks. It's a really good question. It's a little bit complex to answer. So happy to have a chat with you separately. But typically, if you are married in a relationship, your spouse typically would be or might be entitled to half of your pension. Okay. But it's a little bit more complex. So happy to have a chat with you and discuss that separately. In more detail. Another question I have, what is the latest age to start a pension plan? Very good question as well. So there is no actually cap in terms of or latest age in terms of where you can start a pension plan. I think it's also worth mentioning, even if you are not in employment, even if you don't have a salary, you can still contribute to your pension each year. So you could contribute 2,880 into your pension each year, and the government would add another 820 into your pension. So you could contribute 3,600 into your pension each year, regardless of whether you have any earnings or not, but there is not limitation in terms of when you can start your or how early you can start your pension plan. Another question: how can I transfer the pension plan from UK to Spain? This is a fairly complex question as well. Happy to take this offline. Generally speaking, to transfer the pension from the UK to Spain or to a third country, you need to have a really good reason to do so. I think in most circumstances at this point, probably I would not recommend it, but of course I need to have a better understanding in terms of what your goals and objectives are and whether it might make sense to transfer a pension from UK to Spain or third country because of the fees, the complexity, and the flexibility also that you have to access your pension in the UK, even if you move to Spain or third country in the future. Okay, but happy to have a conversation with you offline. Okay. What's the situation about transferring UK state pension to Spain? That's something that you need to look at actually in Spain, whether they'd be able to transfer the years you have contributed to your state pension to Spain. My understanding is that before Brexit, of course, it was possible. Post-Brexit, I think it is still possible. You need to check with the Spanish authorities what the current instance is on the state pension. Let me see if there's any other questions. So someone is asking, Spanish and Spain taxes in two countries, worth choose one of the countries? Yes, again, we need to have a look at your situation in more detail. Really depends how much time you spend in Spain and in the UK. But yes, we can have a chat and see what could potentially work best for you. What about pensions when you've been working in different countries, Spain and the UK? So for the UK pensions, you can transfer and accumulate pensions within the UK to a single provider. That's what we do for our clients, because it helps you to reduce complexity and have more choices and access and better access to your pension. If you have pensions in Spain, you probably want to keep them in Spain. As I said, transferring pensions from UK to Spain or Spain to UK, probably not a good idea, but there might be circumstances when it might be actually a good idea. So again, we need to know your circumstances in more detail before I can give you any advice on that. So Rebecca, I think I've covered all the questions, unless anyone's got any other questions.
Another one that I did get through was, how do I access my pension in retirement?
How do you access your pension in retirement? So I think it's going back maybe to this slide. Let me just show you briefly. So to access your pension in your retirement, if it's a private pension, money purchase pension, i.e. there's no guaranteed income from the provider, you got three options: either an annuity, flexi access drawdown, or this horrible thing, F+, or you could use a combination of the three. Okay, this is how you access your pension in your retirement. Okay, the minimum age is 55. From 2028, it'll be 57. Okay, so you could, just to give an example, if you have 100K into your pension, you could exchange the 100K that you build into your pension for an annuity. It will give you a guaranteed income for the rest of your life. Or you could say, well, I've got £100,000. I'm going to take the first 25 100,000 tax-free. I don't pay any tax. And then I leave the rest, the 75,000, in this, which is called Flexi Access drawdown. Effectively, what it means is that when you access the rest of the pension fund, it will be taxed at your marginal income tax rate. Okay, but remember, there are personal allowances that you can use to reduce your income tax liability or not to pay any tax altogether. And then the third option is this one. So you could say, got £100,000. I want to take it all in one. I want to take all my pension in one go. So 25%, £20,000 tax-free. The rest subject to income tax. So £70,000, £75,000 will be subject to income tax. Let me see that any other questions. If 40K is an annual allowance, does that mean that I can voluntarily contribute for 40,000 or 32, deducting the government contributions? Very good question. So the way it works is that you would contribute, if it's from your net income, you would contribute £32,000 into your pension. The government would add 8,000, so you get 40,000 into your pension, and then you can claim an extra 20%, so 8,000 if you're a higher rate taxpayer, or an extra 25%, 10,000 if you're an additional rate taxpayer. So you get the first 20% tax relief from the outset, the moment you make the initial contribution, and then you can claim via your self-assessment an extra 20 or 25% back, depending on whether you are a high rate taxpayer or an additional rate taxpayer. Sorry, there's another question here. If you contribute X amount and you say the government then adds some to it, are you referring to a private pension? Yes. How does it work? Yeah, I think I've already explained it. It is a private pension, but just to be clear, the employer-sponsored schemes, if you're an employment in the UK and that your employer is contributing to your pension, the minimum your employer should contribute to your pension is 3%, and the minimum you contribute to your pension through your employer sponsored scheme is 5%, so it's 8% in total. The way it works is exactly the same. So the contributions that you make to your pension, they are not subject to income tax. So it's from your gross earnings that you're contributing to your pension. So it is exactly the same. Are there any other questions, Rebecca, your end?
No, I think that's everything that we've had through, Luis. So, well, firstly, thank you to everyone for putting those questions in. And thank you to you, Luis, because that was very, very informative and very helpful indeed. So thank you for collaborating with us. As Luis did mention before when he put up his contact details, if you have any further questions at all, or you want to get in touch with him for a meeting to discuss any of the aspects mentioned in the presentation further, please do feel free to reach out to him directly. I will be sending a follow-up email with the recording of this webinar and Luis's contact details, so you'll have access to those directly. And the recording will also be added to our YouTube channel, along with previous recordings from other webinars and highlights from our other events. So please do feel free to check that out. And yeah, thank you to you, Luis, and to St. James's Place for collaborating with us on our first event of the year. This month alone, we have another 4 very exciting events coming up. So please do feel free to check out our events calendar and join us for any of those if they are of interest. And yeah, I hope everybody has a wonderful day. On behalf of the Chamber, I want to thank you all for joining us, and have a great year, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.